Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this episode 3738 AM. Today's date is September 24th, 2025, and the title of the episode is Central Bank Begins Narrative, No More Rate Cuts. Trump is Transforming the Entire Economic System. You know what I find very interesting? That 1 in 4 low-income households spend 15% or more of their income on energy bills. This leaves many families having to decide between putting food on the table or paying their power bills. Since 2022, retail electricity costs have increased faster than the rate of inflation. This is why I use this magical little device and would never go a month without it. It is state-of-the-art energy-saving tool that minimizes dirty electricity and environmental impact. This gadget can be effortlessly connected to any regular electrical socket and employs advanced technology to oversee and fine-tune energy usage in your household. By scrutinizing and modifying the electric current, it can notably diminish the quantity of energy consumed by your home appliances and gadgets without impairing their effectiveness or operation, and help support lowering your energy bills. Do your wallet a favor and grab one while it's on sale now for up to 60% off only at don'twastepower.com before your next pricey power bill comes in. Plus, if you order now, you'll also get a 60-day 100% money-back guarantee and several other bonuses. Once again, that deal is only at don'twastepower.com or click the link in the description. Let's get right into the economic collapse financial news. Now, the deep state, the corrupt politicians, the private central bank, the World Economic Forum, you can see that they're going to be pushing back as hard as they possibly can, because once again, what don't they want to happen? Well, they don't want to end the Green New Scam. I think that's very obvious, because every time Trump says, okay, we're going to shut down the windmills, we're going to shut down the solar farms, we're going to do all of this, you have the judges out there saying, no, we're going to keep these projects going. And you can see it's always a court battle, and you can see that Trump is fighting the deep state, the central bankers, all the way. In regards to the Federal Reserve, you could see the Federal Reserve does not want to lower the rates, because they know what happens when they start to really lower the rates. They understand that the economy is going to take off. They know that the automobile industry, the housing industry, businesses are going to expand. They know exactly what's going to happen. And this is why they've been trying to push back as hard as they possibly can. And once Trump actually put them on the spot and actually replaced the individual in the BLS that was calculating the job numbers, because you have to remember, we are in a recession. The world has been in a recession. They've just been hiding it from everyone. Actually, if you go back to 2008, 2009, we were in a recession starting in 2007. You know what they did? They hid it from the public. They didn't want the public to know until the very last moment when the elections were happening. And the same thing is happening right now. I do believe we're going to find out that we've been in a recession for a very long time during the Biden administration. And all they did was they masked it so no one would realize what was going on. And they handed off the recession to Trump, hoping that the recession would turn into a depression. And the way they were going to do this is the Fed was going to hold the rates steady as long as they possibly can. And if they could raise it, they would. They were hoping that the tariffs would create some type of inflation so they could say we have to raise the rates. And they wanted Trump to continually say, no, lower the rates, lower the rates, lower the rates. And eventually, when the economy was in a great depression and was about to crash, they would then lower the rates and the whole thing would completely and utterly fall apart. They never expected not to see the inflation from the tariffs. They thought, yes, definitely, this is going to happen. And it didn't. And you can see now that Trump has maneuvered in such a way where he is now forcing them to lower the rates. You can see the Fed right now is fighting back, saying, we don't want to lower the rates. We have to be careful. We don't want to spark inflation. We don't want to do all these things. So basically what they're doing right now, and Powell is out there saying this, they're creating the narrative of why they're not going to cut the rate again. And we know that Moran, he's saying we want a very big rate cut. Trump wants a very big rate cut. And the Federal Reserve, I do believe what they're trying to do is they're going to say, we're going to hold steady this time around, and we're not going to cut the rates any further. I think they're going to try to push back. Now, is this going to work? Maybe, maybe not. It depends on if Trump can get complete and utter control of the Federal Reserve and have his people in there that are going to actually lower the rates. And once again, you could see the Fed, they're trying to push back as hard as they possibly can, because again, once the rates really start to come down, and I'm not talking about the quarter of a point. Yes, this is going to push the economy a little bit, but when it comes down a point or a point and a half, this is when people are really going to see the difference. And this is something the Federal Reserve, the deep state players, this is what they don't want to happen. But when you start to look at everything that Trump is doing right now, he's transforming the entire economic system. And step by step, the central bankers, the deep state players, they're trying to stop him. But he's putting all the pieces into place, and he's getting everything ready for when we make that move. A lot of people, they're looking at this saying, I don't understand what he's doing. Why do we have a stable coin? Why do we have the Genius Act? Why is he going after crypto? Why is he saying he wants the rates lowered? Why is he creating this system with tariffs and a gold card? And this doesn't make any sense, because all these different things that he's doing right now, he's putting it into place because when the time comes to pull the cord on the central bank, everything is there. Just go back to the early 70s and right before the 70s. The deep state, the central bankers, they did the exact same thing. They prepared the entire economic system to go into the petrodollar system. So what did? They had Kissinger. He went to the Middle East and said, listen, we want you to drill for oil. We'll protect you. We'll give you troops, and we want you to drill for oil. We want you to sell the oil to all the different countries only using the U.S. dollar. That's it. That's how you can do it. They went to Saudi Arabia. They went to Kuwait. They went to Iraq. They went to every single one of these countries, and they prepped everything. They prepared the new system, which was the petrodollar system. And when the time was right to shift us from the gold standard, and we were basically on the gold standard, not fully on the gold standard, but again, you could see that during that period of time, because of the war, the central bank was creating a lot of currency. The deep state players, they were borrowing a lot of currency way beyond the amount of gold that we have. Nations started to call them out on it, and they had everything prepared and ready to make the transition. Remember, they prepped everything before they did it. And then they had Nixon come out and say, listen, we're going to temporarily come off the gold standard. And that's when they shift us to the petrodollar system. Trump is doing the same exact thing, but the opposite way. He's prepping everything so we can move away from the central bank, move away from the fiat currency, move away from the petrodollar system, and bring us back to sound money. That is what he's doing right now. And yes, is it going to be a bumpy ride? Of course it is. Because think about it. The Biden administration, they were destroying the economy. They were pushing out fake numbers. They weren't real. They created an illusion, and the Fed went along with it. They knew exactly what was happening. The fake news went along with it. But we've been in a recession for quite a while. And now we could see we're at the point where Trump is building his system very, very quickly. And the central bankers, the deep state players, they're becoming very, very nervous. And yes, they're going to try to stop him every step of the way. But again, it's going to fail just like everything else. And you could see the rest of the world, well, they're entering a recession, or they've been in a recession for quite a while. The Eurozone, they're facing inflation. And we could see that the Eurozone is not doing as well as everyone says they're doing. When you actually look at Mexico, what do we see in Mexico? Well, Peter Saidon put this out and said, the trade war is crushing Mexico, where exports to the U.S. make up 1 in 3 jobs. Retail sales are down 9%. Construction is down 18%. Foreign investment plunged 21%. Mexican manufacturing job losses could already be in the hundreds of thousands. So basically, Mexico is in a recession. And you could see that since Trump now is shifting everything, Mexico, Canada, they're going to have to renegotiate the USMCA. And once again, it's not going to be the negotiation that they had before. It's going to be very, very different. And you have to remember, what I find very interesting, that 1 in 4 low-income households spend 15% or more of their income on energy bills. This leaves many families having to decide between putting food on the table or paying their power bills. Since 2022, retail electricity costs have increased faster than the rate of inflation. This is why I use this magical little device and would never go a month without it. It is state-of-the-art energy-saving tool that minimizes dirty electricity and environmental impact. This gadget can be effortlessly connected to any regular electrical socket and employs advanced technology to oversee and fine-tune and energy usage in your household. By scrutinizing and modifying the electric current, it can notably diminish the quantity of energy consumed by your home appliances and gadgets without impairing their effectiveness or operation, and help support lowering your energy bills. Do your wallet a favor and grab one while it's on sale now for up to 60% off only at don'twastepower.com before your next pricey power bill comes in. Plus, if you order now, you'll also get a 60-day 100% money-back guarantee and several other bonuses. Once again, that deal is only at don'twastepower.com or click the link in the description. Everything that Trump is doing is to benefit the United States. He's reversing everything the central bank, the deep state players have put into place. And the other thing that's very interesting is Trump, he's continually saying that the entire climate agenda is one gigantic con, and it really is. Because when you look at the solar plant in California, Ivanpah, well, that cost $2.2 billion. They have just turned it off after years of wasted money. Why? Because it doesn't work. And you know what it's famous for? Frying birds and frying them in midair. And they fry about 6,000 birds a year with the solar panels. That should tell you everything you need to know. And I thought they were all worried about the environment and everything. I guess they're not worried about that. I guess with the windmills, with the whales, they're not worried about that. Isn't that interesting? How nobody says a word about any of those things. But like we said from the very, very beginning, the entire job market was a complete and utter lie. And this is why Trump brought in his own people, because again, he needs to start from the very beginning. He needs to have real job numbers, and he needs to show everyone that everything that Biden did was false. It was an illusion to make everyone believe that the economy was really doing well. So again, we couldn't start from his high job numbers because that would look kind of strange, because Trump is creating the jobs and it looks like jobs are going and decreasing every single day. But if we remove what Biden did and we erase all that jobs, well, and we remove the illusion, we get to the base of all the jobs, and then we can move up from there. So we're actually going back to reality. And this is what we're going to see. We're going to see the jobs increase over time. You see, he didn't want to start from the high point with fake numbers. He wanted to start from the real numbers, and he wanted everyone to know that, look, these jobs never existed. The 1.2 billion jobs, they're fake. All of this is fake. So let's erase that. Let's go back to the basics, and let's start where we are today. And I'm going to show you, we're going to continually create jobs, because what was happening is that every day that passed, jobs were being lost, because again, there were fake numbers and they were just moving forward with their agenda showing, hey, look, the economy's falling apart. Trump's not creating any jobs. And that's what it would look like. And now we're starting from the beginning, and now we're going the opposite way. But we could see that the Fed chair, Jerome Powell, he's warning that cutting rates too aggressively risks stoking inflation. So basically, he's now setting the narrative that if they move too quickly, they could cause inflation and the economy would be a complete and utter disaster. Now, I do believe what he's doing right now, he's actually preparing the narrative to let everyone know that when the Fed comes together, they might not lower the rates. They might have to keep them steady for maybe another quarter. And I think they're doing this on purpose because they're trying to figure out a way of getting out of what Trump has boxed them into. He boxed them into saying, listen, look at the unemployment rate. We were in an illusionary economy. Biden didn't create the jobs that he said he was going to create. And this is the metric that you use to lower the rates. So now they're trying to create the narrative that they're going to hold back on it. And this is being done on purpose because, again, I've said this many, many times before, the Federal Reserve, they do not want to lower the rates. They're going to try everything they possibly can to try to keep the rates steady because they want the economy to fail. They want to bring it down. They don't want Trump to succeed. They don't want people to recognize that the economy is doing fantastically well. And they definitely do not want Trump's parallel system to overtake the central bank system. That is their biggest fear. And Trump, he needs the rates to come down, and he needs them to come down very, very quickly. Joe Lange explains, why is Trump pushing for the Fed to lower interest rates? Why now? Our nation is in a massive debt, and we are paying a lot of interest on that debt. A plan that has been in the works for years is unfolding before our eyes. Lowering rates is key to the plan. Trump chose Scott Bessent as Treasury Secretary for a reason. Anybody remember what he was pushing right after the election? Ultra long bonds. A bold bet on stability. Perhaps the most intriguing part of Bessent's vision is his openness to issuing ultra long Treasury bonds, securities and maturities of 50 years or even 100 years. This isn't just a technical adjustment, it's a statement. Ultra long bonds sends a clear signal about how the Treasury plans to manage its debt in a changing economic environment. Stability is the key. Why would Bessent be pushing for ultra long bonds? Ultra long bonds, like 50-year or 100-year treasuries, may become more common. These bonds offer higher interest rates, which could be appealing if you're looking for stable, very long-term income. Stable income. There is a higher return on investment in ultra long bonds. This could have a dramatic effect not just on the debt, but the pensions of 401ks and insurance companies. Ultra long bonds can help transform the entire insurance industry. Long-term bonds are a major component of insurance companies' investment portfolios. Look at the high cost of all insurance. The costs keep going higher. How do you lower the costs and stabilize insurance for the future? Answer: guarantee a high stable income for insurance companies through their investment portfolio, so the rates they charge to customers can stay low and there are risks for ultra long bonds. Over time, inflation could erode the value of your fixed interest payments. These bonds are more sensitive to changes in interest rates, meaning their prices can drop sharply if rates rise. The risks to the stability of ultra long bonds are inflation and interest rates. Can you see what Trump is setting up? How do you get rid of inflation and interest rate instability? Get rid of the Fed and the fiat dollar. Go back to a gold standard. Guess who was talking about ultra long bonds before Scott Bessent? Mnuchin said Trump administration officials were contemplating an intensive review of the debt option and that it was under various serious consideration. The Treasury might be looking to take advantage of historically low interest rates to issue long-term debt on a more favorable term. Trump was already planning this transformation on the bond market in his first term. Can you imagine refinancing the debt into ultra-long bonds with really low interest payments after the interest rates are forced lower by Trump? Is this part of the plan to get the country out of debt and to rebuild America? Anybody remember Trump's first term Fed nominee? The incoming Treasury Secretary has voiced support for the U.S., issuing ultra-long-term bonds, a concept previously explored during the Trump administration under then Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin. A compelling idea is now being openly discussed by an economic advisor from Trump's first administration. Judy Shelton is advocating for a Treasury instrument that includes gold convertibility of the dollar upon maturity. Judy Shelton recently tweeted out a proposal for a 50-year Treasury bond, convertible into gold, to be issued at the initiative of Trump on July 4, 2026. Is it just a coincidence? Gold-backed ultra-long bonds might be the key to funding states and getting rid of property taxes. And I do believe Trump now is setting all the different pieces into place. He has the tariff system that's being built right now. He has the gold card where people have to pay to come into this country. He's going to be drilling for oil, selling oil and technology across the globe. He has the Genius Act, stable coins. He is now looking at ultra-long bonds. This is all in preparation for where we are all headed. And he needs the rates to come down. But you can see the Federal Reserve, they're going to be pushing back very, very hard. And this is why Trump, he was getting ahead of all this and putting people into place that will do what he needs to be done. He needs the rates to come down. This is why he brought in Moran, and this is why he's going after Cook. And I do believe that eventually what's going to happen is Trump is going to get his people into place. Now, of course, the Fed is going to fight back. And I do believe when they see all else has failed, they might even try some type of an event or something that we've been talking about. But I do believe that once Trump has everything in place, he'll be able to transition the entire economic system very, very easily. And no matter what the deep state does, the central bankers do, I don't believe they're going to be able to stop this. Now, there might be a pause. It might look scary. They might say, hey, the entire economic system is ruined. But again, they tried this back when they released COVID on the population. They tried to bring down the stock market. They tried to destroy the economic system, but it all failed. I mean, yes, the entire economic system was closed artificially. It doesn't mean that we were in a recession. It doesn't mean we're in a depression. And when it opened up, people just went back to their jobs. And of course, with Biden's economy, he kept losing jobs every single day because of the Green New Scam and the push to get us into the Great Reset. And that was actually part of the plan to actually destroy the old system. And they kept the illusion alive when Trump won and tried to convince everyone that Biden's economy was strong and he's handing it off to Trump. And they were hoping that the recession that they caused would then move into Trump's administration and we would enter a depression and everything could be blamed on him. And this is why the Fed was purposely keeping the rates up. And they never expected Trump to build his parallel economic system this quickly. They never expected him to make all the deals across the country. And you have to remember is that the tariff system cannot operate with the central bank system. Yes, you can have it right now, but the central bank system doesn't work well with other systems because, once again, it's a debt system. The system that Trump is creating is a profit system. So these are two different systems. And we could see as we move forward, Trump, his system is going to allow us to weather the storm. And it's going to allow us to move forward. And yes, it might be bumpy. Yes, it might look scary. But I think in the end, we're going to see that Trump's system, the people's system, and as we go back to the Constitution, back to sound money, people are going to realize that the system that he brought us into is 1,000 times better. It works for the people. And this is something the founding fathers wanted for everyone in this country. They never wanted the government involved. Remember, the only reason the government can see into your finances is because we borrow this currency. The currency is not the people's currency. It's issued by a private corporation. Very, very different. And under the Constitution, this is absolutely ridiculous that they can come in and look through all your finances, all your records, without any type of warrant, without any type of anything. But they set it up this way on purpose because, again, it's their currency. They're loaning it to you with interest attached, and they want to know, are you hiding anything from us? And this is the private corporation. Now, go back before the Federal Reserve was in place. You think the government would come down and take a look at what your finances were? Absolutely not. Because again, there were no taxes. You didn't have to show anyone anything. Yes, if you did something criminal, yes, they're going to investigate. But on a normal, everyday basis, you didn't have to show how much you made, how much you're deducting, how much you're doing that. This was all created by the Federal Reserve System. And of course, the IRS, because those are the thugs that go after you if you don't pay. It's like a loan sharking system. So I do believe Trump and the Patriots, they're going to end all this. And we're going to be going back to the Constitution and we're going to return to our rights where we don't have to show the government anything. And the government has no business being in our business. And that day is approaching very, very quickly. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be all, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.